welcome to the show. Glad to have you with us here today. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you. Hope you are warming up and celebrating responsibly, of course, on this St. Patrick's Day. If you're having a green beverage, or maybe you're just having some corned beef and cabbage. I don't know. I've never really been a big corned beef guy. I don't think you are either, are you, Jesse?
Not a huge corned beef guy. I actually went into work today because they were providing corned beef and slaw sandwiches, and I was like, all right, I'll go in and get a free sandwich. Mistake. Can't complain about a free sandwich, but did not taste good. It was just kind of dry. There wasn't a lot of flavor to it, and I was like,
you're not a mustard guy either. So
that's also true. That's also true.
I am much more a pastrami guy. It's the same meat. It's just, prepared a little bit differently. I've always thought corned beef is a little bit more bland to me. There's a little bit more zing to pastrami. A nice piled high pastrami sandwich always hits the spot. But so I've never been big on the corned beef. Joe says bangers and mash. Not a bad one. Not a bad one. Can't go wrong with that if you're celebrating St. Patrick's Day, I have to say. I do have to say we've got to welcome the hottest up-and-coming youth basketball coach in Cleveland, Jesse Stiers, fresh off a Monday night playoff win, 1-0 in the playoffs this year. Congrats.
Thank you. 31-13 victory. We only gave up 4 second-half points. We scored 20 second-half points. So
sounding.
We were only up by 3 or 4 at halftime, and then I don't know if it was the little speech I gave, but we really, really got it together and played a really strong second half. We're on to the semifinals. We're playing the only team we lost to in the regular season. My coach, who coached by himself this past weekend, lost that game. We don't count that game. I can also –
Oh, you're blaming him now, huh?
Well, he seemed very flustered, and so he works about an hour outside of Cleveland, so he could only make it to right at tip-off this last game.
Oh.
And so I told everyone to get there 30 minutes early. I got them warmed up, and then I just kind of took control of the whole game, and I thought we played great. So
all right.
Hoping to carry it on to this next game. We definitely
feel like you got a little BK in you with those statements there. little heavy on the eyes there.
No.
All right.
He just doesn't know how to, like, when the kids start getting a little sassy and that, he doesn't know how to keep like reinforcing positive energy, basically.
Yeah. Riles him up a little bit too much.
He shuts down a little bit. And I'm like, dude, they're 12 years old. You just got to roll with the punches here a little bit. Just keep encouraging.
That's right. Have you filled out your brackets yet?
No brackets yet. Are those due before the first 4?
Yes. I don't know if they'll give you a pass or not after the first 4. I really don't. I filled out both of my brackets today at ESPN.com, the men's and the women's. And if you want to be part of the group here, Sports Radio, WSBT, and Irish Breakdown, you can go to ESPN.com and go to their bracket challenge. And the group is IB Nation Sports Talk, and the password is Irish Breakdown. So you can do that. You can be part of it. I've got mine filled out. Vince filled his out, and there are several others in that group as well. So
it just comes so quickly, Sunday's the release, and then now they got the first 4 games. Like, I need a little bit of time. I got to do some scouting here. I can't just blindly make some picks.
I don't know what you're going to scout. Mine were both very chalky. I'll put it that way. Like, I picked some first in the men's. I didn't know which 12-5 to pick, so I just picked all the 12s to beat the 5s in the first round. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I haven't done very well the last few years when I filled out either the men's or the women's brackets.
Well, if you remember last year, I didn't do any brackets.
Okay.
And I liked it. I might do the same this year. I might just do the WSBT.
Low stress.
Low stress.
Yeah, these are just for fun. Just for fun in this little group that we've got going here on the show. We've got a little pre-spring breakout player draft that we're going to do today. We're going to draft an offensive team of breakout players. We're going to draft a defensive team of breakout players, each of us. And I just realized I need my sheet of paper here so I can write everything down. But we'll do that in a second. But we need to start with some breaking news that happened just an hour or so before the show. Former Notre Dame basketball player Carson Tout, who of course only played 1 year at Notre Dame after playing 4 years at Northern Arizona and transferring to Notre Dame this season. Carson Tout today signed a free agent contract with the Indianapolis Colts. They hope that the 6'8", 250-pound former college basketball center who averaged 8.8 rebounds a game in 5 seasons in college, including a team best 9 rebounds a game this year for Notre Dame, can turn into an NFL tight end. I, for one, was shocked when I saw this tweet. Honestly, I had to think about what day it is. I'm like, is this an April Fool's joke? Because it said he has signed a free agent contract. He has signed as let me rewind. The Indianapolis Colts tweeted that Carson Tout has signed as an undrafted free agent with the Colts. And that's what kind of threw me for a loop, because obviously the draft is still a little bit more than a month away. But there's a loophole, I guess, for guys like Tout because of the fact that the NFL is only concerned with college football players being in the draft. If you can demonstrate that you never played football in college and are 3 years out of high school, the NFL essentially considers you a free agent. And obviously Tout fits all those bills. He said that he never even played football in high school. What do you think of this move, Jess?
This is astonishing. This is absolutely astonishing.
I think so as well.
Like, let's just call it what it is. I wish I had those genetics that I could just show up and get drafted.
I know.
Because he never even played in high school. And so obviously the size is there, the footwork is there because of basketball, but like Stymie said in the chat, Mo Alley Cox was also a basketball convert. So they think they've got some, bona fide system here where they could just take guys who never really have played football, take their basketball skills and convert them on over to tight end. I guess I was just surprised that they made the move. Like, Tout didn't even do his pro day yet at Notre Dame.
I know.
And so it's like, did they think that if he did that, like more people would see him and like the competition would go up? I guess, what is the advantage of signing this guy before you've even seen him do a pro day?
Yeah. Like, have they worked him out to any extent? Can you work a guy like this out to any extent? I don't know. I haven't seen.
I feel like yes, because again, if you can sign him because he's an undrafted guy, I don't know why you can't bring him in, because he's just a guy off the street that's never played affiliated football before. So you can do this with anyone.
Yeah, it's not a loophole. You're not working out a guy who just got done playing college football. Again, he's played college basketball for 5 years. So apparently that's what happened. And Mo Alley Cox is the example, and I think he's played 8 years now for the Colts after playing college basketball at Virginia Commonwealth. He's had a nice career. Obviously, Antonio Gates is the best example of this, a guy who also only played college basketball, never played college football, went to the then San Diego Chargers, and he's a Pro Football Hall of Famer now. The other end of this is a guy you've talked about here before, Rico Gathers, the former Baylor power forward, and Jerry Jones down in Dallas tried to make him an NFL tight end, and he basically stayed on the practice squad for 3 years or something like that, and then it just never. And they actually spent a draft pick on Rico Gathers.
I mean, I think it's a genius move by the Colts. There's really no downside to the situation. If he doesn't work out, then he just gets cut. And then if he works out and ends up making the 53, it's like they look like geniuses at the end of the day. So, they just drafted Tyler Warren. Maybe they see a lot of similarities between Warren and Tout. I don't know, but again, this looks like a move to me where you can't really lose at the end of the day. So more power to him.
No, probably give him $100,000 or a couple $100,000 to hang around. And again, you take him into mini camp and you take him into to training camp if they think that he's got some potential. And worst case scenario, again, he's part of your practice squad, and he's a developmental guy going forward. So, I mean, he's obviously a good athlete, and he's got good hands to be able to rebound the way that he does, and he understands angles and those kind of things. So,
how lucky is this guy, though? Like, this is
I
what
know.
people put so many hours and dream about, and this guy is just, I haven't played football since maybe middle school or backyard, but now he's going on and getting a chance with the NFL team. Like, that is so many guys' dreams, current and past players, current tight ends in college football, and then this guy out of nowhere just gets this opportunity. Like, I'd be very envious, and I'd be kind of mad if I were these other people. But if
guys who have actually worked their lives through college, whatever level of college, to try to make it as a tight end, and this guy has never even seen a football field or worn a pair of cleats, and
God-given ability
because he's 6'8" and 250 pounds, and he's a pretty good athlete. Yeah.
Again, I would love to be blessed with those genetics.
Right. And we were talking a little bit about Jasper Scaife, the Australian punter, yesterday, and of course Brandon Aubrey comes up as a guy who obviously never played football, and now he's doing well as a kicker, one of the best kickers in the NFL. But the biggest difference with Aubrey is, one, he played soccer, and a lot, like most of your kickers in a high school, or some guy who's been grabbed off the soccer team, and it's like, hey, can you kick this thing? How far can you kick the football? And, can you kick it through the uprights? And it turns into something and they move on. Like Brandon Aubrey, he was done playing soccer, and his wife said, hey, why don't you try to be a kicker? And he worked his way up using was it the XFL that he was in? I can't remember, or the UFL, one of those.
He was the UFL.
Yeah, but he actually played it for a couple of years and became pretty good at it, and that's how he got a shot in the NFL. And again, like Carson Tout, good luck to him, more power to him, but never played a down of football in his life. He's already done a Zoom conference with Indianapolis media today, and the story that I said, or story that I read, said that Carson Tout told the media there in Indianapolis he's never played football before, never even played in high school. Yeah.
Oh, man.
I know. Crazy days. All right, let's do this breakout draft. Spring football practice starts this week for Notre Dame. There's going to be a Marcus Freeman press conference tomorrow. We're actually going to get to talk to Rob Hunt from the athletic training staff, as well as Lauren Lando, the director of performance, after Marcus Freeman. So there's going to be all three of them tomorrow, and we'll have some of those comments on tomorrow's show. That's kind of the unofficial kickoff of spring. And then the first practice is this Friday. So what we're going to do, Jesse and I are each going to draft an offensive team and a defensive team of breakout player candidates for this spring. So I'm going to give you the first pick of either offense or defense. We're going to draft either the entire defensive team or the entire offensive team first, depending on which side of the ball you want the first pick for, and then I'll get the first pick for the other side of the ball, and we'll draft that team all the way through. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I've spent a good time considering, and I would like to use my first overall pick on the offense.
All right, so we're going offense first. We're going to do one quarterback because there are only two quarterback options. We're each going to get two running backs, two receivers, a tight end, and two offensive linemen. So, Jesse, where do you want to start first?
I don't want to blow my cover here too much, but I feel like the offense has less meat on it. I think it's a little bit top heavy. I think there's some real diamonds at the top, and I think the rest we're going to have to kind of work for here a little bit. But I'm going to get us started, and I'm going to take Will Black with the first pick overall.
Okay.
I think this is a guy, based off of some of the stuff we've heard, I think that if I had to make an assumption, Will Black will be at left tackle and Knapp will be at left guard. And I think that Will Black will be a 12-game starter this entire season. And I think he's going to be the next kind of dude along the offensive line, especially at the tackle position. So I got to go Will Black overall.
I can't disagree with any of that. I think that that is a very good pick, and I think that like he could end up being, as you said, basically the next stud offensive lineman. A really good chance that if he can win the job, that he'll be out there at left tackle. Now we should say, because Irish Eyes says to go with Carr, CJ Carr is not eligible. He has already broken out. These are guys who essentially have not broken out yet. So like all the starting linebacking core, Adon Schuler, Tay Johnson, Leonard Moore, Jordan Faison, Jaden Greathouse, and basically most of the starters who already on the offensive line are not eligible for this. These are only guys who have a chance to make their first breakout this spring. Like CJ Carr is already fully broken out. There's nothing more to break out.
I mean, he's the leading Heisman guy going into this season.
Yeah, exactly.
He's broken out.
All right. Well, you've started off with a bang going with Will Black to start off the offense. I think, and we're going to talk more about Aeneas Williams in rapid fire in a little bit. I think I'm going to go with Javian Osborne in the running back room, because if Aeneas Williams is going to be limited this spring, Javian Osborne, I think, is licking his lips, and we've heard good things about his work this spring. So I'm going to go with Javian to potentially be a breakout there. More opportunities coming for him, as well as the other guys as well. Jonas Walton, Nolan James Jr., and Keedron Young. But I'm going to go with Javian Osborne as my running back breakout.
Let me ask you this question. If I went with a running back, would you have gone Will Black with your pick?
Probably, yes.
Okay. That's what I was afraid of. I was either going to go running back or Will Black first. So it sounds like we would have been on the same thought process.
You can't get all of them. So, yeah. All right. So Javian Osborne and Will Black are off the board. Where do you want to go next on the offense, Jess, on our spring breakout player draft today?
So next, I'm going to shift my focus to the tight end room, and I'm going to go with James Flanagan.
Honestly, he was probably next on my list. This is a very good, like, this is a whole room full of tight ends who are all just waiting to break out at this point.
Someone's going to pop in this room this season, naturally. But I think the biggest thing that we've heard, kind of so far is Flanagan. Well, I can't just say Flanagan because they both have the last name. There's two guys with the same last name.
Same last name, different spelling. Yeah.
Yeah. James Flanagan, really known for kind of being strong in the blocking game, but he's really been working on his hands and catching ability this offseason. So, I mean, we know that Notre Dame is an offense that's never just going to solely run with one tight end. And so even if Cooper Flanagan is the day one starter, James Flanagan is still going to have some sort of impact, especially when they go 12 personnel, double tight end sets. So I think we're going to see a big season out of James Flanagan. So that would be my second overall pick.
That's a good one. I'm going to go to the wide receiver room, and I'm going to grab one of the Ohio State transfers, and his name is Quincy Porter. This is a guy who was supposed to be the guy after Jeremiah Smith is done at Ohio State, but here he is at Notre Dame after 1 year in Buckeye Land, where obviously I'll be heading this weekend with Notre Dame women's basketball, but a different sport. But I think Quincy Porter, between the two, appears to maybe have the best opportunity early on, and there's a lot of talent there, so I'm going with Porter as one of my two wide receivers.
I'm also going to stick within the wide receiver room. This is actually really hard because I think there's a lot of talent already, and then they brought in the transfer talent as well. But, you took one 5-star transfer. I'll take the other 5-star transfer and take Mylan Graham. I was perfectly happy with splitting these two with you, so I just have to make sure to grab them before you grab the other one.
I figured that's how this was going to work. Like, each of us would get one of them. So I think it's good. Odds are at least one is going to really flash and maybe two of them ultimately do. I'm going to also stay in the wide receiver room, and I'm going to go with Elijah Burris.
Dang. That was my next move.
I was honestly, when you said that you were going receiver, I was like, oh, is he going to take Burris?
Yeah, but if I went Burris, you would have went Graham, and if I went Graham, you would have went Burris. So there's really no winning that.
That's true. I mean, he had a little bit of a breakout last spring, but it didn't turn into big opportunities during last season. So there's still a lot of meat on the bone in terms of breakout potential. Here's some other guys in the room: Bubba Frazier, Cam Williams, Jerome Bettis Jr., Devin Fitzgerald, Micah Gilbert, Braden Robinson, Jaden Finley, and Logan Saldana, all on the list of potential options. Irish Eyes favors Cam Williams. He is one that, a lot of people have favored over the last couple of years, and we're still really waiting for it. Is it going to happen now? How confident are you, Jess? I don't know if you want to stay with receivers or not. You don't have to, obviously.
Yeah, I am. My next pick is, since you sabotaged the wide receiver room, I have to figure out how to sabotage you elsewhere.
Okay.
So I'm kind of recalibrating right now.
There's still plenty of running backs left.
Yeah, but the one that's most important is gone. I got to make sure and grab. Well, you know what? That's a good point. Did you say, you know what? That wouldn't be fair to ask you. I'm just going to go ahead and take Keidron Young.
Okay. All right. I'm curious what you were going to ask me now.
But I think this is obvious that Aeneas Williams is the favorite going into the season. But I don't think that means he's a lock. And we've definitely seen that Notre Dame likes to use two running backs, potentially even three going into this season. And so I think that it is safe, to assume that Keidron, Osborne, and Nolan James will kind of have first crack at that second and third string role. I would have liked to go Osborne because I think he gives more of like those Jeremiah Love vibes, really electric, athletic guy who can make one cut and type of go. But I will take the powerful Keidron Young because someone's going to have to pound the rock at some point.
I like that. Got to see some consistency from him, and curious what he looks like coming back from that injury. And, the running back room is a little bit thin if there's not going to be a lot of Aeneas Williams. But again, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for all these guys to show themselves if Aeneas is going to be limited, like Marcus Freeman said in that interview that he had with Greg McElroy this week. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish off the running back room for me, and I'm going to take Nolan James as my second running back. I think this is a guy I'm really curious to see what he does with this spring, again, because there are more opportunities. He was, there was some potential for him. We saw some flashes from him last spring, and another year, a year in the weight room and a little bit bigger and stronger going into this year with no Love, no Price. There's opportunity for him. So I'm again, like with no Aeneas with less Aeneas Williams, really curious to see if Nolan James is able to kind of seize the opportunity. So I'll go with him as my number 2 back.
That's a very good pick. I mean, I'm not going to give this as my pick, but there's only one running back left. So I'll just use that with my last pick of this draft.
Yeah, I'm going to say you can save it. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Micah Gilbert at the wide receiver position.
Okay. I like that one.
Here's what I think. I think that Cam Williams has a higher ceiling. I think there's more expectations for Cam Williams, but Micah Gilbert has actually done it. He had 10 receptions for 100 yards and a touchdown last season. Granted, that's not a lot, but it's still more than what Cam Williams did. So to me, that shows he's processing the playbook better. He's his work better. He has a better understanding of, what it means to be a wide receiver at Notre Dame. And I think that he's just got, again, I don't think he has maybe quite the potential that Cam Williams does, but sometimes potential doesn't win all the time. And I
That's
think
right.
Mike Gilbert is just currently ahead, and I wouldn't be surprised if he has another really good offseason. So give me Micah Gilbert.
No, I think that's a really good one of the guys who have been around a little bit who haven't played a lot. I think that he probably has the best opportunity of them going into the
Because he
2020.
saw some playing time last year, even when he
Exactly.
wasn't catching the ball.
Exactly. He was actually out there on the field, so you started to see a little bit of that. There was just, only so much he could do when you had a guy like Fields around and some of those
Who did
other
he catch that touchdown against? Was that Navy
might have been.
over the top?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
It feels like Navy. I can tell you what weekend it was, and I can tell you where I was at, but I can't tell you who it was against.
Well, what weekend was it? Where were you?
I was at a wedding, and it was in kind of like the towards the tail end of November. So I
Okay.
think it was the Navy game.
He when he had his only touchdown last year?
It's against Navy.
It was against Miami.
Was it really?
The CJ Carr dipsy do scramble.
That was to him.
Yes,
Well, I was considerably wrong.
that's okay. Josh says Navy. I don't see on his game by game here any stats for the Navy game. So KK was Navy, someone says. I think
That's
that's
who it
that's what
was.
you were thinking of. That's what you were thinking of. Yep.
That's what I was thinking of.
All right, we'll continue our offensive spring breakout player draft. I tell you what, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the offense, and then we'll draft our defensive team as well. Breakout players for the spring. We're drafting an offensive unit and a defensive unit, and we'll see where they come out when spring is over with. Let's take a timeout, and then we've got more coming up. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Budweiser's weekday sports beat with irishbreakdown.com. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm Sean Stiers. Jesse Stiers is here. We've got a short show tonight. We're done by 6:25 because we've got First Four basketball coming up tonight, NCAA tournament. We'll actually talk about that leading up to 6:25 in rapid fire in just a little bit. But right now, we're doing our spring breakout players draft, drafting offensive team first, then a defensive team. So it's my pick now, right?
Yes.
Because you just took Micah Gilbert. I'm just going to take my quarterback off the board. There's only two options because, again, CJ Carr is already broken out. Teddy Gerard is not here this spring. It's either Noah Grubbs or Blake Hebert. I'm going to take Hebert, the guy who's obviously been in the program for a year now. And these two guys beginning their battle for the number 2 spot behind CJ Carr. Going to go with experience. Seen some good things from him and really curious to see both of these guys in action. I wonder what the reps look like. We're not going to get to see tons of reps, but I wonder what the reps look like between these two this spring as they vie for that number 2 job. Are you frozen up? Are you live?
It's not about these offensive. Should be.
Say that again.
I said you taking that quarterback has really backed me into a corner here in terms of my quarterback and running back, as there's not much left on the board. But I feel like I really backed you into a corner by taking Will Black, because the rest of these offensive linemen must not impress you very much. And so I hope that I take the offensive lineman that you wanted to take with this next pick.
Okay, go ahead.
The guy I wanted, I'm not seeing on the list, so I'm gonna go with Matty Augustine as my offensive lineman.
Who is there? Somebody who's the one you wanted who is not on the list? There's a chance maybe I forgot to write his name down.
Sullivan Absher.
He played quite a bit last year. Do we consider him broken out, or is there still a level for him to go to, do you think?
I can respect that because he did get a lot of playing time due to injury. I don't think he's going to be a starter this season. I think there's a bit more talent in front of him. I think a lot of this might come down to what does and doesn't happen with Jagusah. Because the rest of these guys, not to be, they're all kind of the same at this point. You know what? I'm going to keep Matty Augustine. I like that pick.
That's a good pick because that's where I would have gone coming up next. So there's not a whole lot of places to go here. So I'm going to go with Joe Otting as my first offensive lineman. So you took both Will Black and Matty Augustine. That's where I would have gone. I mean, I don't think that he's necessarily going to push for a starting job, but he's a guy who saw some action last year, and there's still some upside for him. There's just a ton of young, unproven guys in this room, and really Will Black and Matty Augustine, I think, are the two who are at the top of the list. And then, like you said, there's just like a whole lot of uncertainty left behind him.
Completely agree. Joke's on you. I wanted Noah Grubbs, so you can pencil in Noah Grubbs for me.
All right. Well, good for you then. You got your guy. I got my guy. I'm going to go with Styles Prescott as my second lineman, and I think that this is a guy who stands to have some opportunity, and I think that some of that has to do with the fact that you potentially don't have Charles Jagusah. And again, we'll find out more about that tomorrow. We're kind of assuming that we're not going to see much of him this spring. So I've got Otting and Prescott. You've got Augustine and Black.
That is correct. And I believe the last pick of the offensive draft, I will take Jonas Walson.
All right. So you've got Walton, the running back, and I'm going to take my tight end here since you went with James Flanagan. I'm going to go with Cooper Flanagan. So
not to be confused.
That's right.
So
again, different spellings of the last name.
I definitely have you beat on the line. You definitely have me smoked in the running back room. I think wide receivers could be a split, but since you got Burris, I think you have upside. Tight ends, I think I have a little bit more ceiling upside. And then quarterback, you probably have a little bit of upside. These really shaked out to be even.
They really were.
I think that I think the biggest contrast are the offensive line room and the running back rooms.
I think you're right. A lot there. Okay. Now we go over to the defense, and I've got the first pick of the defense. And the problem with the defense is there are so many guys back that
the talent is more abundant on this one. The offense is so top heavy. That's why I needed to go first pick with the offense.
Yes. I'm going to start, I think, at cornerback, and I'm going to go with Jaden Sanders, the transfer from Michigan. We included him on this list. He's played some. And again, Brew doesn't count because he's a proven veteran. Like the only transfer I think that we included on this list was Sanders because he was, for the defensive side of the ball because of the fact that, he played, but he didn't necessarily play at a star level. But again, opportunity is there. So I'm going to go with Jaden Sanders as my first pick for the defense.
I like that pick for you. I'm going to grab Madden Faremo with my first pick.
Oh, you love some Faremo. We're only drafting one linebacker as well.
Had to get him.
That's a hot commodity right there.
Had to get him. I think with KVA kind of getting back into things, I don't think he'll be 100% by the time the season starts. I think that's going to give a lot of opportunity to Madden Faremo. And it's a room that already has a lot of rotation as well. So he's going to see playing time. It's not like all these linebackers are just out there every single snap. So I love this pick.
I like it as well. That's a really good one because, again, you've got 4 proven guys out there, and who knows exactly what the reps are even going to look like for the rest of the linebackers this spring. So I like that. I'm going to just go ahead and grab another corner and take Dallas Golden off the board. So I've got Dallas.
You were going to double up if I went linebacker.
Yep, I think I've got to.
That's fine. I will
potential nickel guy, see what happens there.
That hurts. I'm gonna go Armel Mukum at defensive tackle.
I love that pick, by the way. I considered him for number 1, but I really like that. So you've got Mukum, and we're each getting 2 defensive tackles. So that's a really good one for you. Can Christian Gray be considered a breakout? Purely as a nickel?
No, because I think he's proven himself as someone who can play in the secondary. Okay. It's just a matter of where he's gonna play.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to clarify in case anyone, in case we wanted to put that on there. Defensive tackle is a little tough, and I'm kind of regretting saying that we're taking 2 because the numbers get thin very quick. Because again, we're not including Francis Brew because of the fact that he is a proven guy coming in with, a lot of experience and everything.
Same with the other transfer, right?
From Tony Gray as well. Yeah, they both played a lot, and they were both, to whatever extent, pretty good commodities. So I'm going to grab Rodney Dunham at defensive end, one of the young bucks. I'm going to go with him and see. Keeley does count to me because Keeley, he played at Alabama, obviously, but has not played.
Not a ton of production.
Right. Not a ton of production. Hasn't played to the degree of either Brew or Gray, like the defensive tackles, for example. So
never was a full-time starter.
Yeah.
Honestly, you could say, and Please, no one, come at me in the comment section. You can make the case that he's underachieved for how highly recruited he was coming out of high school.
Yeah. At this point in his career, yeah, because some of the stuff that I've heard, it's like he's kind of, like for being in a program like Alabama and now coming to Notre Dame, there's apparently, kind of a little bit different work ethic going on here that he's kind of got to get a little bit used to. And I think that's good. Maybe that's part of the reason he decided to come here to Notre Dame, to give himself a fresh start and have a chance to dig a little bit deeper and work a little bit harder and see where things turn out for him. So, yeah, I agree.
Imagine if you told someone that statement 10 years ago, that someone was transferring from Alabama to Notre Dame and the work ethic and the work is harder at Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Saban would have someone by the neck if he ever heard that.
Yeah, that's right. It's a different world now. All right, who's your next pick on the defense?
Man. Look, let me just double check some. I have two. I'm deciding between two people, and I just need to see something real quick. So give me 10 seconds here. This is an important pick because I can.
Do you want to tell me what positions you're deciding between?
No.
Trying to keep this good radio while Jesse is doing his research on the air. So
I'm going to go.
You might be below the bar there. So
I'm going with Sean Sevillano.
Okay. Doubling up, going big guys, big dogs. I was considering him as well.
Yeah, you doubled up on corner. I wanted to take away what I thought were the two best defensive tackles. Yeah. I was deciding between him and Dixon, so I wouldn't be surprised if you go with Dixon.
That's where I am going to go next. I'm going to go with Davion Dixon because there's not a lot left, again, with the defensive tackles, because we've made like Francis Brew and Tony Gray not eligible, and Gray's not even here right now, so we couldn't make him eligible if we wanted to. So where's my – okay, hold it. I think I accidentally – so you have Mookum, right?
Yes.
All right. I accidentally wrote that on mine.
Oh, that's convenient.
I know. Wishful thinking, I guess. Yeah, so I'm going to go with Davion Dixon as my first defensive tackle.
Okay, so that brings the boomerang back to me. Since we're only taking one safety and there's really only three out there, give me Joey O'Brien.
Okay. I think you're cleaning up. I think you're cleaning up on defense, honestly.
You call me a defensive guy?
Although you don't have a cornerback yet, and I've got two pretty good picks there at corner.
Hey, it doesn't matter when my defensive tackles are in the quarterback's face.
Yeah. I'll just grab one of the two remaining safeties who are eligible for this because, again, Schuler and Johnson not eligible. They have both broken out. They are both veritable stars in the defense right now. I'll go with another young guy, Brandon Logan, since you took O'Brien.
I like that pick.
You need two defensive ends and two corners. That's what you've got left.
Yeah, I thought you were going to put me in a stranglehold. I'm going to go with Logan Thomas here and get on the board with the defensive end.
Okay.
I think that, I think the defensive end position is going to be challenging because there's just going to be a lot of bodies between Keeley, Bryce Young, Logan Thomas, Rodney Durham. There's going to be a lot of guys to go around. I think at least one or two are going to have, a studly season. I think Bryce Young is probably the guy that you can ink in for definitely one of those stud seasons. But I think there's going to be a sleeper guy or two behind him. And I'm going to go with Logan Thomas as potentially being one of those guys.
And I forgot to ask you, Antoine is saying in the check, Bryce Young, and I did have this on the note. Does Bryce Young still qualify as a breakout?
Did he lead the team in sacks last year?
He did not. Boubacar did.
Boubacar. Oh.
Boubacar was first, and Burnham was second, I believe.
It's hard. I like that you left him out because I think it would have been like if you didn't, I think one of us would have easily just said Bryce Young,
I'm going to grab my linebacker. I'm going to go with Kahanu Kia, a little bit older guy who obviously left for a while, did his church mission, came back. He's had a little bit of an injury, and I feel like him being a veteran, if some of these like next wave of guys get opportunities after the top 4 guys, I feel like Kia's going to have an opportunity. His little brother is obviously now here as well, but I'm going to go with Kahanu, a little bit older as my linebacker.
I like that pick. I would have went with him if I had I not gotten Madden for Ramo. So good pick there. I'm surprised you didn't go DN. I'm gonna have to sweep up Keon Keeley here.
Ooh, good one. I'd forgot that he was still out there because we were talking about him earlier. Man, you lulled me to sleep.
See, you're at a disadvantage. You got to host the show, work the board, write everything down. I'm just here telling names.
I know. Got to keep track of it all. I'm just going to make it a freshman sweep, and I'm going to go with Ebenezer Uitade and see how that goes.
I've heard a lot of good things about him.
I have too.
So I think your guys on the, at least with him, he's kind of like more of that boom or bust type of guy. You know what I mean? If a lot of high upside, it's like when people made fun of me. I think the very first time we did this little activity and first overall, I went with our guy, the offensive lineman from Michigan that was tough as nails. Why can't I think of his name right now?
Oh, yes. That's okay. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's okay.
PK was here. He was the one who made fun of me for so long.
Yeah.
Ended up being a great pick. He broke out that year.
You need 2 cornerbacks, and I need 1 defensive tackle. So you go, I go, you go, and then we're done with the defense.
I'll take Mark Zachary as my first corner. Like his athleticism and length, a guy who saw a good amount of time last year. He saw the field. You know, he got some playing time. And that goes a long way for me. So I'll take Mark Zachary.
Okay. I'm going to go out on a limb a little bit with my second defensive tackle, and I will go with Brennan Vernon and see if that actually pans out this spring, maybe with him seeing a little bit more time at tackle. I don't know, but he's a guy who's been around. He's put in the work and, keeps battling, and he's still here. So I'll go with Brennan Vernon and see how that goes.
Remind me, you took Dallas Golden and
Jaden Sanders.
I
think Pouncey and Adams are 2 very tempting guys.
That's who I'm deciding between.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Kari Adams.
Okay. All right. So that
someone finally helped me out in the chat. Rocco Spindler.
There you go.
Oh, I don't know why I couldn't. I knew it began with an R too, but some reason all I could think of was like a bear. But that reminds me of how he plays is just a bear.
Yeah, he is a little bit of a grizzly bear. So, all right, that concludes our spring breakout draft. We drafted an offensive team. We drafted a defensive team. We've each got offense and defense. We'll keep the list, and we will revisit at the end of the spring and see who came out on top as they head toward fall training camp. So,
can I make a recommendation?
Sure.
I think what you should do for housekeeping is post it on the board somewhere.
Okay. You want people to vote on this, don't you?
I don't want people to vote. I just want it to be officially.
You want it out there. Okay. All right.
Official.
All right. We can do that. We'll put it up on the Champions Lounge and see what people think. And of course, you can always visit irishbreakdown.com and the premium boards if you want to be a part of the Champions Lounge. You get some of that good spring intel, fall intel, summer intel, recruiting intel, whatever it happens to be.
My original or my kind of first thoughts, I think you have the edge offensively. I have the edge defensively, which is crazy because I had the first pick offensively.
I know.
And you had the first pick defensively. Maybe we just had to work a little bit harder, and our teams ended up coming out a little bit better.
I think you're right. Okay, we'll take a break. Rapid fire, quick rapid fire is on the way, and that will conclude our show tonight. We'll be done before 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time with Jesse Steyer, Sean Steyer's Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. It's hour 2 of Budweiser's weekday sports beat with IrishBreakdown.com, and that can mean only one thing. Rapid fire time. We've got a slew of topics that we're going to get you as we wind down the show a little bit shorter tonight, as we've got First Four basketball coming up here on Sports Radio WSBT. I'm John Stiers, joined by Jesse Stiers, dropping his microphone.
My mic all of a sudden got like real, like there it goes. I had like I had a bunch of background noise coming in, like fuzziness, and then it was really freaking me out for a second. So glad we got that figured out. But I'm excited for this First Four basketball. I got nothing else to do tonight. I mean, it's 20 degrees. There's at least a couple inches of snow on the ground. I'm not going back outside.
First Four World Baseball Classic. Are you in on one more than the other?
Since it is the finals, I would have to say, sorry, a sneeze had to pass through there. Since it is the finals, I would have to say the World Baseball Classic, but I'm really upset with Team USA right now.
Why's that?
They benched PCA for the championship. Not a fan of this move.
Yeah, Mark DeRosa does not seem to be a fan of Pete Crow Armstrong. Cubs fan.
He's got one of the best batting averages on the team. The guy and his speed on the bases, defensively. Yep. I mean, Buxton's a good player, but I don't know. I wouldn't take him over PCA. And then also, this is kind of a Vince take, I feel like. But I'd be remiss. They walked into the stadium wearing Team USA hockey jerseys. A little corny for me.
Yeah, that's a little bit much.
A little corny for me.
A little bit much. Yeah, this U.S. baseball team is an odd bunch. I think that's fair to say.
I'm having a hard time rooting for them. They're kind of lame.
No, they're lame. They're a little hardcore. Like, did you see some of the stuff over the weekend about like all the other teams are having fun? And like the USA team is listening to that SEAL talk about how they killed Osama bin Laden, and
yeah,
yeah, that'll get you up for a baseball game.
Did you see the other breaking news in the NFL today? Jalen Waddle got traded to the Broncos.
I know. They've gone from Tua, Jalen Waddle, and Tyreek Hill to all three of them gone. Different teams. And I don't think Tyreek is signed with anybody yet, but all three of those guys, they would appear to be working toward getting the number 1 draft pick in 2027, the way they are retooling that roster down there in Miami with Jeff Hafley right now. They tanked for Tua, 6-7 years ago. They'll be tanking for maybe they're tanking for CJ next year. I don't know.
I wouldn't want CJ to be a Miami Dolphin.
Yeah. Fill in the blank. It's blank that Marcus Freeman told Greg McElroy in the Always College Football podcast that Irish running back Aeneas Williams will have limited availability this spring.
That's limited concern that Marcus Freeman told Greg McElroy that, because I think Aeneas Williams has the most proven workload as a Notre Dame running back. I know that, obviously the role is up for grabs with Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price being gone, but it's Aeneas Williams' role to lose. And I'm more interested to see these young guys in spring practice, and that's what spring practice is all about. This would be more of a concern or a story if he was going to be limited throughout fall camp. But again, this is limited concern for me at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about him needing to miss time, but there are some other pretty talented guys in that room. And when you're losing Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, and you're potentially moving into a bigger role, I think it's a concern, but just potentially for him, that maybe one of these other guys sneak up on him a little bit and catch him. Like there was a time before Jadarian Price got injured a few years back where it looked like he was the surefire number 1, and then he did get injured, and then both Estime and Jeremiah Love passed him up, and he was, even though he was good, he was always the 1B option. He never fully caught up. So I'm really curious to see what some of these other guys are able to do, and how they make do they make the most of the opportunity that they're going to have if there's not going to be as much of Aeneas Williams, considering, as you said, he is the front runner coming at least into the spring. Do they catch him? Do they Wally Pip him maybe down the road here? So let's revisit. Antoine got in late. Antoine Rideau in the YouTube chat. He said, how about former Notre Dame basketball player Carson Tout getting signed by a tight end by the Indianapolis Colts? We did talk about this at the front of the show, but that's been an hour ago at this point. What do you think? Do you think ultimately this works out for Carson Tout? Like, do you think there's a career for Carson Tout in the NFL?
If I'm just going off the odds, I have to say no, that there is no, chance. But the guy is getting an opportunity. Obviously, the Colts are doing this way ahead schedule. So, like, I guess to me, like, there's just my buzzers are going off a little bit because I'm like, this move could have been done at any point, but the fact that they're doing this before the draft, they're kind of getting ahead of things. There has to be something that he's showing.
Mm-hmm.
That leads me to believe that he's got a better than a fighter's chance at making this at least the practice squad. And so I like his chances just because of when this came about, to be honest with you, and a guy that didn't even have to go through a pro day by the time it was all said and done.
Yeah, like they're obviously making him some kind of priority for again, a guy he signed with the Colts today. The Colts made the announcement that they've signed him, and apparently the reason they are able to sign Carson Tout now with the NFL draft, still 5 weeks away, they can do it because he has not played football in college. He has played a different sport, and he is also more than 3 years out of high school. So that gives the Colts, or any other team for that matter, the opportunity to sign a guy like Carson Tout, and he doesn't have to go through the draft process because he has not been considered a football player, but they have to have seen something. They've made him some kind of priority. So I think the odds are still pretty long. Like we talked about, is he going to be Rico Gathers, who played basketball for Baylor and basically was a practice squad player for the Cowboys for 3 years, never made any kind of dent? Or is he going to be a Mo Alley Cox, like a middle of the road, pretty good tight end who the Colts have already developed, a guy who played basketball at VCU and never played football in college? Or I don't think that I'd put him at the high end of, being a guy like Antonio Gates with the Chargers. But if I'm going scale of 1 to 10, I'll at least give him 5.5, a little bit better than 50-50 chance.
That's where I'm at, just a little bit better than 50%.
Yeah, I think that's where I'd be on his chances to have a pro career. Antoine's also asking in the YouTube chat if Anthony Knapp is officially moved to left guard. He says Ryan Roberts, old friend of ours from Irish Breakdown, doing his own thing now on his YouTube channel, said he was. And this is stuff that Brian Driscoll has talked about in the Irish Breakdown Champions Lounge before as well, and we've kind of referred to it. I mean, is it official? Well, it's not official until they roll out there on the first day of practice and you see him playing left guard, and or at the press conference tomorrow. And there is a Marcus Freeman press conference tomorrow at noon, and we'll have a lot of his comments on tomorrow's show. Vince and I will. Maybe it comes up, maybe it doesn't. Like, if Marcus Freeman addresses it and says, yeah, we're going to give him a look, then it's official. I mean, we can't say it's official until either Marcus Freeman is on the record saying it's official or we see him out there. But it's at least looking like that's probably going to happen for this, and like Will Black will get looks at left tackle because, as they've always said, the objective is to get the best 5 guys on the field. And
best 5 and the best rotation of that 5.
That's right. And I think that moving Knapp from left guard or from left tackle to left guard and looking at Will Black, a guy with a ton of talent and size and, like all the tools that you want from a left tackle, and at least seeing what that looks like, I think that makes a lot of sense in the spring. That's when you do something like that. You see if it works, and if it does, you stick with it. If it doesn't, you look at other options. So I think at least for the spring, that's probably what we're going to see. But we can't call it official until either Marcus Freeman marks it as official or we see it with our own eyes out there. Fill in the blanks. If last spring was blank for Notre Dame, this spring is blank.
You're gonna like this one.
Okay.
If last spring was quarterback drama for Notre Dame, this spring is offensive line drama for Notre Dame. I think last spring, all we wanted to talk about is who's going to be the quarterback. Who's going to be the quarterback? I think this spring, a lot of what people are going to hyperfixate on is where's what we were just talking about. Where's Anthony Knapp going to be? How's the rest of the line shake out? Is Jagasol in that picture? Is Will Black in that picture? Where is Knapp at? I think that is going to be the main talking point, drama point for this spring leading into the fall is the offensive line drama.
So I had a couple of different answers. I like that answer that you gave, though, and mine kind of ties in a little bit. Mine is if last spring was QB1, this spring is QB2. You know, like that's the difference in the battle. Last year it was like three guys. Who's it going to be? And obviously Steve Angeli left after the spring, which seems like it's been more than a year since that happened to be.
And then Minshew left after the regular season.
Yeah, that's right. So, and then my other thing is last spring was to a large extent about recovery load and, no high workloads after playing all those games in the college football playoff. But this spring is much more about ramping up overall as a team.
That's a really good point because they played 16 games the season prior, and this one they played 12
exactly,
and didn't play the bowl game, and so that's four less games, way longer of a break, no longer really as concerned about the recovery. I think that this spring is about, like you said, ramping it back up and getting people really fired up and back onto things because obviously last season you were riding that wave of being in the national championship. You didn't need really anything else to kind of get you fired up. If you still could be fired up, like I would be exhausted after playing those many games late into the season.
Yep, exactly. They had to manage a lot of workloads and those kind of things. You don't have to worry about any of that this year because again, they didn't play all those games, didn't take all those hits on their bodies. And they haven't played a game since Thanksgiving weekend. That was it. So a lot different this year compared to last year in just terms of how they can manage the spring and again, like ramp up those workloads and those kind of things getting ready for the summer. Fill in the blank. It's blank that Notre Dame is one of 12 schools in the nation whose women's basketball team averaged higher attendance than the men's basketball team this season.
It's not shocking. And it's the unfortunate reality of Notre Dame men's basketball right now. When you had Mike Bray here, even during the rough seasons, I would say that the crowd turnout was pretty equal. Obviously, the women's team is a lot more successful, way more consistency over the last 2 to 3 decades. And they've just built, and this, there's lifers with the women's basketball team. There's people who even travel for road games. And you just see more of those people attached to the women's program right now. And so really it's just a shame, to be honest with you, because not only are the men performing bad, but they're performing so bad that they can't even get people out to games. They can't even get people to come out and want to watch them play. So to me, that shows like you're not even really playing competitive basketball at the end of the day, that you can't even give the fans the illusion that you could win on any given night, because that's just really not the case anymore. You can't even take ranked teams to the brink anymore. You can't even go toe to toe with them anymore on the men's side. So it's just really unfortunate, to be honest with you, but it's not surprising.
No, it is unfortunate. And, because like even the women's attendance, which is not quite 2,000 more per game, it's a little, around 2,000 more per game higher, but even the women's attendance has dipped a little bit this year because, the expectations were just different and all those different things. And, one of the first things that I saw people chirping about when I saw this list is, well, what's the difference in ticket prices? And I mean, yeah, there's a difference in the price of tickets, but these 12 teams that have better women's attendance than men's attendance, this is across the country, 12 teams out of roughly 350 Division I programs, on both sides of the country. So this represents about 3% of all the teams that have better women's attendance than men's. And, like UConn is one of the most successful women's programs, obviously, in the nation, but the men are obviously very successful as well, and they're out drawing them, or at least they're fairly even. And the bigger connection, is just the fact that the women's programs, like when you look at who the women's programs are that are outdrawing, and the list includes South Carolina, Iowa, LSU, Oregon State, programs like that, where the women's teams have just been much more consistent than the men's teams. And that's what it's all about. Ticket prices aren't a big part of it. It's about, like, people want to go see a team that they think has a chance to compete and win. And so I think it goes to what you're talking about there. Notre Dame on the men's side, really, there's still work to do to get people interested, to give them a feel that they've got a chance to go out and actually see a winner. You put a winner on the floor and more people are going to show up. Doesn't matter what the ticket prices are.
Well, not only that, but at least, we won't count the last couple, like the year or two under Bray, but even in down seasons under Bray, every home game felt like Notre Dame could win. And they took a lot of teams to the full distance, even if they weren't good, even if they didn't win. Like, I remember them taking those Duke and North Carolina teams all the way down to the wire. Yes, They might have lost, but it was still going to be a great basketball game with the chance of winning. There's no chance of winning, and now they're getting beat by Duke by like 40 points.
Right, but that's exactly right. But like Notre Dame in the Bray years, obviously they beat North Carolina, they beat Duke, they beat Syracuse.
Home court was sacred.
Yeah, they beat a number one UConn team back in the day, like when Notre Dame was still in the Big East. You're absolutely right. Like they could go out and do that on any given night. And that's, again, there's a long way from where they are right now. Maybe it's closer than we think if they can add a key piece or two with some of this young talent coming in. And so I still think of Braden Shrewsbury and Marcus Burton to an extent as young guys, but they're going into their senior years now. Next year, which is kind of crazy when you think about it that way. So there's a lot of proven guys already on the roster, and you can throw Serta in there as well. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if they're closer than we think if you add a key guy or two here and there. Fill in the blank. Texas versus North Carolina State is the late first four game tonight. 9:15 is the listed tip-off, which means it'll probably tip off closer to 9:30. But it's blank that Dick Vitale and Charles Barkley are going to team up with Brian Anderson to call that game on True TV tonight.
It's iconic. Even if the reason why I say it's iconic is because you have Dick Vitale and Charles Barkley. You and I spoke about this over the weekend. Is Dick Vitale as sharp as he used to be? No, but his name is still Dick Vitale, and he's calling the game with Sir Charles Barkley.
And this is going to be the first time he's ever had the opportunity to call an NCAA tournament game. This is it tonight. The guy's over 80 years old.
So it just adds on again to this just iconic presence of Dick Vitale, first college game. You got Charles Barkley. I like Brian Anderson as well. So I think this is going to be a fabulous trio. This is honestly my favorite part about March Madness. Yes, there's games and upsets, but all the different broadcast groups that we get deployed throughout the country, it's all hands on deck when it comes to March Madness.
It is.
It reminds me of the Anchorman scene where they blow the horn and all the different news groups start showing up.
That's commercials, no mercy.
That's what it's like when these announcers that you're just not accustomed to seeing. Charles Barkley doesn't call any games until it becomes March Madness, you know? So it's just like he doesn't even call games in general, but as soon as March Madness rolls around and they blow the horn, here he comes out of the back alley with Dick Vitale and Brian Anderson.
Yeah, I mean, like when you think of college basketball, like you and I basically both, like Dick Vitale is 86 years old now. To an extent, we both grew up watching Dick Vitale. Like he was a major college basketball personality when I was in college. And again, like you growing up, he's remained a major college basketball personality. Charles Barkley, a little bit different, obviously known more for the NBA, but because of the fact that you've got this crossover with TBS and ESPN with the Inside the NBA show, that's kind of how this whole thing came about. So you've got Barkley, still working to an extent for TBS, but also on ESPN now. And Vitale, again, it's very cool that Dick Vitale finally gets to call a March Madness game. For as long as he's done it and as many games as he has done, he has never done an NCAA tournament game. So to have these two guys together tonight, and, Vitale has obviously battled through some health problems and stuff like that and some voice issues and those kind of things. So I think it's great that they get this opportunity. And it's a fairly, like for a first four game especially, like it's a fairly high-profile game. Texas and NC State tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's no joke of a play-in game, and what better way to get this – oh, crap. What better way to get this tournament started than me knocking stuff over on my desk and listening to Dick Vitale and Charles Barkley?
All right, so there are obviously going to be a lot of games with a lot of different announcers, both, men's and women's games in the tournament. Would you like to see, maybe even in general, not just during the tournament, would you like to see them put the names of the announcers on the screen more when you're watching a game so you know who you're listening to when they're calling these games?
I would, just because of what we talked about. There's so many different names and personalities, people that have never, or people that don't do college basketball games as frequent, or maybe even at all during the regular season. I think that there is no problem maybe flashing it once at the beginning of the game, maybe once towards halftime, and then once kind of, sometime in the second half. Just, I forget, and I'm not the same as you, where you know a lot of these faces. Like, I know the big names, but, when it comes down to it, I don't know all of them.
I think that, because they do their little stand-up at the start. They do something at the start of the second half where they're back on camera. But you don't. Like, there's all these different voices who are just coming at you, and a lot of people don't know. I think, like, how hard is it just to put on the screen coming out of every commercial break, like Dick Vitale, Brian Anderson, Charles Barkley? How hard is that? Now, like, two of those three voices you probably know pretty well. But again, there are like so many different announcers and voices. I would like to see it, because there are going to be plenty of games where you're not going to know who they are. Just throw their names up coming out of every commercial break, so you know who's doing the game. It's not that hard. And I'd like to know.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like, if you don't know, what are the odds that the rest of the population
Exactly. All right, we're winding down with that. We do have First Four basketball coming up here tonight on Sports Radio WSBT, so that's why we're wrapping up a little bit early tonight. We'll have First Four games tomorrow. And again, Marcus Freeman press conference at noon tomorrow, and we'll have his comments right here on Sports Radio WSBT. Budweiser's weekday sports beat with IrishBreakdown.com. We will wrap up with that. Talk to you later.